Bonjour à tous and welcome everybody. I see there's already so much activity in the chat. This is amazing. So we have Connie here, we have Linda, we have Nancy and Cynthia and Doge, and we have Kiran. Okay, so some of you I've never seen here, so this is amazing. Thank you guys for being here. Today we have a topic that I wanted to speak about for a while because it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. So we have the worksheet as usual. If you don't have it, you can find it on my Telegram channel, which is linked in the description below. You will really need it for today because we have all the examples here, and we're going to play a little guessing game with those examples. So those examples represent all of the rules of so-called French euphony. And euphony means either sound good sound, right? Eu is good in Greek, and phony is sound or voice. So these are all the rules that sometimes override French grammar, and that can allow us to pronounce French more easily, or sometimes it just sounds better to our French ears. And if you're a non-native, it might not sound better to you. So it's important to have a bit of an idea of what sounds better to the ears of the French. So yeah, I hope you have your worksheet. Please let me know if you have it. If you don't have it, you still have time to grab it from my Telegram channel. What do I have? What else do I have to tell you today? I still have 2 or 3, depending on how we count, spots to work with me one-on-one this month. So the link for that is also in the description below if you want to check it out. And yes, since we have so many new people here, well, first, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Second, we always have this kind of system in these Sunday lives that there is some material that I have prepared. So today, this is the content of this worksheet and the explanation that go with it. And also after the material, there will be time to answer any question that you have about learning French or about French, or honestly, any question that I can possibly answer. You are welcome to ask it. Just if it's not directly related to the topic of today, I ask that you wait until we're done with the topic, and then I will answer any question that you have. So without further ado, let's get into this. So what we have here is just a list of sentences, and each sentence shows a little rule or a little alteration of the grammar, which is for the sake of so-called euphony, so for the sake of sounding good or of being easier to pronounce. So I'm just going to ask you the first question, so you have time to write in the chat your answers or your guesses, and then I'm going to tell you a bit more about the introduction. So the first question, the first sentence we have is un petit enfant, des petits enfants. And yes, this is how it is pronounced, des petits enfants. So does any of you know, and any guess is fine, does any of you know what is going on here in this sentence and what kind of rule is happening here that allows us to pronounce this more easily than we would? And while we are sorting this out, or maybe typing it in, I will repeat the things that was posted on Instagram, and also that I just like to speak about because it's fun to think about it this way. Basically, those rules that I'm going to teach you today, they will always override any other grammar rules. So it's kind of nuts when you think about it, but there is sort of an order of priority of the French language, and the order of priority is that, you know, top 3 priorities of the French language. Number 3 is to depict reality best we can, right? Number 2 is to respect the grammar. That means that if there's a fight between grammar and reality, grammar will win. One example that's easy to realize is that in French, every single noun has a gender. So for example, une bouteille. So the gender is not attached to the thing, the gender is attached to the word, right? So une bouteille is a feminine word, a bottle, but a bottle does not have any gender. We just kind of have decided, for the sake of making French work, that every single noun would have a gender. And this reflects nothing in reality. I am the first to acknowledge that. There has been fascinating studies about how people who have gendered language, you know, like Spanish speakers, German speakers, and so on, French speakers, etc., would perceive the words differently than those who don't have gendered language. It's pretty interesting to read those studies, but objectively, this is not male or female, right? It's just that the word une bouteille has a gender. So grammar will override reality any day of the week, And there's yet a top one priority that will override grammar any day of the week, and that's euphony. That's the sounding good part, or making it easier to pronounce. So this is what we're going to learn today. It's not something I teach very often. I just, particularly in the one-on-one sessions, I never have a session which has like the goal of teaching euphony. This is actually the first time in my entire life. Even in the French Fluency Accelerator, which is my group program, you also have the link to that below if you want to check it out. Even in that program, I haven't actually made a workshop about euphony. I could, but it's not something that's considered very important. And yet those rules will override any other rule whenever we meet them. So we have a suggestion from Doge, which is that petit sticks to enfant. And yes, that is absolutely correct. That is the rule here. So what we call that is une liaison. Une liaison means a connection. It can also be used for an affair, like a romantic affair. That would be une liaison as well. So liaison means connection, either between two people or between two things, and here between two words. So des petits enfants, the S of petit, if you would pronounce petit on its own, which when I'm doing it, I say petit on its own, I do not pronounce the S. But if I say petits enfants, I will pronounce the S. And the rule is that if within the same word group, if there is a silent consonant at the end of one word, and the next word starts with a vowel, then we connect them, and the consonant is no longer silent. So un petit enfant in the singular, we will hear the TE, un petit enfant, while the word is petit and enfant. If you say just petit on its own, you don't hear the T. And if you say petit in plural, you don't hear neither the T nor the S. But if you say des petits enfants, you hear it. Now with liaison, it's a bit tricky because there are three types of liaison. One day maybe I could make another call about that. Maybe that's a bit over the top, I guess. But some liaison are compulsory, as in if you don't do it, the French will feel that it's weird. It's weird when you speak. Some liaisons are possible, like facultative. You can do them if you want to. And some liaisons are forbidden. And one that is notoriously forbidden is the liaison after a. So that's what I've written here under the other one. So if you say j'ai un chat et un chien, you are not going to say est un chien. That would sound so weird. And it's particularly interesting because almost all the rules that I'm going to share today about euphony are meant to prevent two vowels from meeting. But weirdly, if it's within two different groups, if it's connected to A connects two different groups, right? Then we forget about that rule. It doesn't matter anymore. The liaison does not happen, and there shall be no connection after A, right? Cynthia is saying it flows easily into the next word as though connected. Yes, that is exactly that. So you get it. It is absolutely perfect. All right. So if you have any questions about liaison, please type it in now, or else we are going to look into the second example for today. And I've just written, and it might be a bit cryptic because we just have the examples, but it's for the sake of guessing. So what happens here with un nouvel ordinateur, un vieil homme, un bel oiseau? In case someone doesn't have the worksheet, I can show you the sentences here. Un nouvel ordinateur, un vieil homme, un bel oiseau. So can you see something weird or special in those sentences? Those sentences are correct, by the way. Like none of the things that I wrote here contain mistakes, unless I made mistakes not on purpose, but I proofread quite well, so, or quite extensively. So can you guess what's going on with un nouvel ordinateur, un vieil homme, un bel oiseau? So we have a question. Doge is saying, wait, I didn't quite get it. You never use a liaison between un and a word that starts. Oh no, between un you do. You would. For example, un homme actually doesn't technically start with a vowel. It starts with H, but we don't consider the H. So we say un homme, we say un oiseau. So yes, we do after un, it's after a. So a, this word, which means and. After a, we don't connect the word a with the next vowel. So anyone can any one of you take a guess about the second sentences? Un nouvel ordinateur, un vieil homme, un bel oiseau. Have you ever seen those words spelled this way? Nouveau ordinateur is two vowel sounds together. Yes, yes, Tony, that's a great remark. And yes, that's the premise, basically. We could not say un nouveau ordinateur because that would be two sounds, two vowels together. So it has something to do with the vowel sounds that starts with ordinateur, homme, and oiseau. Doge is saying nouveau ordinateur. Yeah, we just didn't do it this way. Maybe we could have, but this rule doesn't exist. We say un nouvel ordinateur. So Kiran is sharing the sentences, right? Thank you for sharing them. So basically, when with some adjectives such as nouveau, vieux, and beau, right? So this is how they would be spelt in the regular situation. So for example, we could say un ordinateur nouveau, un homme vieux, un oiseau beau. We wouldn't really say that because those adjectives tend to go before the noun, but that's a topic for another day. Tell me if you'd like to have a call about adjectives. I know there's a workshop in the accelerator, but I've never made a call on YouTube for that, so I could do it. So those words would end with the sound O or E. But if they are placed before a noun, so that's still within the same noun group, right? That's this general idea that those rules apply within a group of words. If they are placed before a masculine noun that starts with a vowel, then they will change to the variant that does not make two vowels meet. So that's how we have un nouvel ordinateur rather than un nouveau ordinateur. Now, this only happens with masculine noun because in feminine, the variant of those words is nouvelle, vieille, and belle, and then you don't have the vowel meeting because the sound ends with a consonant. So une nouvelle voiture ou une nouvelle école, that does not change if it's feminine. But if it's masculine, you will have to alter those adjectives. And so therefore, those adjectives in particular have not just two variants, which would be a feminine and a masculine, like almost all adjectives do. They have three. They have a feminine and two masculine. They have a masculine variant for in front of a vowel. So please let me know if that makes sense. If you have any question about this example, and then we can segue into the third example, which we have cet ordinateur, cet homme, and it's kind of the same story as the second one, so that's why I put it immediately after. So you can see here the examples, cet ordinateur, cet homme, and you can take a guess as to what is happening here. I'm very annoyed with my hair today. I hope this does not annoy you, but this absolutely annoys me that just it's not staying like it should. I did brush it, but just, yeah, have to rework that. So, any question or any idea, any question about number 2 or any idea about the number 3, cet ordinateur, cet homme? Because normally the set, which it means this computer and this man, right? And they are masculine, as you could guess. Man, un homme is masculine. There's a reason for that. That makes sense. For once, un ordinateur is also masculine. There's no reason for that. Well, except that it ends with ter, which is a masculine ending. But other than that, there is not really a good reason. So this is this. The word for this in French is ce, masculine, or cet with double T-E, feminine. And so, for example, if you had a car, this car, you would say cette voiture. And if you had a school, which starts with a vowel, you would say cette école. So it wouldn't change in feminine. But in masculine, it does change when there starts with a vowel because ce homme or ce ordinateur, that just does not sound good. And therefore, you have to introduce a different word for that. Now, we could use the feminine word, that wouldn't hurt, say cet with C-E-T-T-E. But hey, why would we make it simple when we can make it complicated? Let's face it, it's funnier to have 3 versions. I don't know why that is the case, however, because when it has to do with the masculine nouns being affected, we use yet a 3rd version. But as you will see later, when it affects the feminine noun, we actually don't need a 3rd version. We use the masculine one instead. I do not know why. This is something that I don't know. It's just how we talk, I guess. We felt that there was no reason to create a new one for feminine, while for masculine, we were like, no, we can't use the feminine one. We have to have a new one. Doge is saying you don't have set in feminine plural, right? Instead, you say c'est. Correct. Yes, we would say ces écoles, ces voitures. So the plural is the same for every gender. So we would say ces hommes, ces écoles, ces voitures. That never changes. And by the way, after the ces, ces, there will be a liaison. Circling back circling back to the first point on this list. Ces écoles, ces hommes. Then there's a liaison here after the s. All right. So then we have a quite big fourth point, which you can see here. So it goes l'enfant, l'école d'infirmière, j'écoute, je t'aime, je l'aime, je m'appelle, tu t'appelles, il s'appelle. I'm not going to read it. S'il faut le faire et jusqu'à demain. So what I want you to look at specifically here are the apostrophes. So this little sign here, we call that an apostrophe, and we have a lot of apostrophes in this slot here. And I've put some brackets and some space here. That's for you to write the thing that's missing from the apostrophe. So when we have an apostrophe in French, that means that a letter is missing there. And the reason why we felt the need to have the letter missing was because of euphony. Because if the letter had been here, two vowels would have met, and we don't want two vowels to meet because it sounds bad. So can you tell me in l'enfant, for example, what vowel is missing there? Like, what would it have been if l'enfant had not started with a vowel? And same in l'école d'infirmière, and basically all of them. So I think this one is probably the easiest that exists because you have to actually learn. So Nancy is saying E. Yes. So it would be le enfant, right? Because enfant is masculine. So it should be le enfant. But of course, that sounds horrible to a French mind, le enfant. So that's why we say l'enfant. And same thing with l'école d'infirmière. So that would be d'infirmière. So de infirmière, that sounds horrible. And that's why we remove we remove the E and we just made it the apostrophe, so d'infirmière. However, with l'école, it's not an E, it's another letter because école is feminine. So that should be la école. But again, la école, yes, Nancy is saying, so great. Yeah, you're following. That's perfect. That's amazing. So la école, that sounds horrible. We cannot say that. So we say l'école. This means that sometimes it can be difficult to guess the gender of a noun because often the article will give away the gender of the noun, and that will help you learn the genders more easily. But if, for example, in your vocabulary notebook, you just write l'école as the school, that will not help you know that école is feminine. So that's why in the vocabulary notebook, when it starts with a vowel, I would recommend writing une école rather than l'école, just for the sake of knowing from the article that it is feminine. Because of course it's important to know the gender because that will determine afterwards, well, what you use for an adjective and all of the rules that follow. So Cynthia is saying to again make it easier to pronounce, like I'm saying apple in English is hard to say, but adding to un before apple is an easier way. Yes, so the is missing in le and sometimes a in la. Yes, that is exactly what this is about. So actually I wrote that here as like a reference. So you have euphony in other languages as well. This is not actually a special feature of the French language. I think pretty much all natural languages have these kind of rules. So in English you would add the un. You will not say a apple, you would say an apple, or you won't say a umbrella, you would say an umbrella. But I can't really think of another rule of English that's like that, while in French, well, I have found 11 different ones. So yeah, we're just kind of obsessed with it, I guess. So let's go on with the fourth. So j'écoute, there's a letter missing after the je, and in je t'aime, there's a letter missing after the t. In je l'aime, there's a letter missing after the le. Okay. Je m'appelle, there's a letter missing after the M. Tu t'appelles after the T. And il s'appelle after the E. And after the S, sorry. And so can you tell me what letter is missing here? It's always the same letter. I mean, they're saying the French are extra. Yep, we're extra. Doge is saying E. Okay, so the I is for like you're ahead of the curve. The I is for it's C. Right, this is correct. Okay, yes. So it would be je écoute, right? Je is the pronoun I, but again, when it meets with a vowel, it has to be j'écoute because je écoute is horrible. Je t'aime, that should be je te aime, right? You love, je te aime, because in French we put the pronoun, the so-called object pronouns, we put them before the verb. So we don't say I love you, we say I you love. But then again, M starts with a vowel, so we can't say te aime, je te aime. That would be horrible. We just say je t'aime. We remove that E. Je l'aime, like I love him or her. Yeah, actually, there's some subtlety here. So in je l'aime, it could be a masculine or a feminine person or noun that follows here, because in French we only have two genders. My apologies to the non-binary community, of which I'm a part of. I'm annoyed as well, but that's just how it is. So je l'aime, that would be je le aime if we're referring to a masculine person or a person who uses masculine language about themselves, and je la aime if we refer to a person who uses a feminine pronouns and language for herself. And we don't have third option. But either way, it's going to be je l'aime, because le aime or la aime, that just sounds too bad. We can't have that. Oh, correct. Yes, Tony, you're saying it's equal. It is, that's an English equivalent. So yeah, you actually have plenty of those because you have all those contractions, and it is true that it's is easier to pronounce than it is. So contractions completely count as a case of euphony. So thank you for pointing it out. I had just never realized that it's the same thing. Yeah, so I'm learning too. We're all learning together. That's amazing. So je m'appelle, tu t'appelles, il s'appelle. This is practically the same case. So it should be je me appelle, tu te appelles, il se appelle. But then again, appelle starts with a vowel, and that would sound horrible. So it's just je m'appelle, tu t'appelles, il s'appelle. This me te se thing is what we call a reflective pronoun. So some of those verbs have the se as like almost a built-in feature of the verb. Tell me, by the way, if you want me to speak more about those verbs. I don't think I spoke about it on our call about verbs, which I made a few weeks ago. I don't remember speaking about it. I don't think I did. They're a bit tricky to remember, but here, for the sake of just sticking to the topic of today, for euphony, you just know that if two vowels are to meet, probably you will remove the first one and just replace it with an apostrophe, especially if it's in a small word. That applies also to C. It's quite infrequent to see this, so that's why I put them, at the very end, like as an afterthought, if you will. But s'il faut le faire, so si il faut le faire, that sounds so hard. It's like that hurts. That hurts my face and my vocal cords when I try to do that, and that's why we say s'il faut le faire. Interestingly, if we would go with si elle, we would not actually change anything. We would just say si elle. So si elle vient, if she comes, that would just not apply here. I do not know why. It's just sometimes nothing happens when something reasonably should be happening. And the same thing with jusqu'à. So jusqu'à is very frequent, and it's possible that you've even learned that jusqu'à with this thing means until, but really jusqu is until, and à is a preposition. So à demain would mean see you tomorrow, or to tomorrow, or till tomorrow. And jusqu'à is the part that means until. Jusque can sometimes be found with the actual E that's missing here, but most of the time it will actually be part of jusqu'à, so you might have just learned it this way. Right. Number 5, my favorite. Mon ami, ton idée, son école. So this is my favorite because not only it's the euphony, your overriding grammar, which itself overrides reality, but it's also my favorite because it trips my students up a lot. Like, it's almost like this was designed to trip up the poor English speakers who are learning French. So I want to leave you like enough time to actually think about it and write in the comments what you think is going on here. So for the record, ami, idée, and école, they are all feminine, right? All of those words are feminine. So let's see what you can come up with. I mean, I'm sure some of you know, but probably not all of you. Linda's saying, I think it is because it doesn't have the sound in between. Ciel as and CL as a sort of diphthong. Yeah, I guess it makes CL like that works. CL sliding between, so it sounds pretty. Yeah, that makes sense. I'll take this explanation. That's reasonable. All right, so Tony is saying ma belle amie. So that is a great addition to this discussion. So indeed, in mon ami, if there was an adjective that starts with a consonant here, then we would default back to using ma belle amie, my beautiful female friend, my beautiful friend, but a female friend. Yes, so that would go back to ma. But why do we have mon, ton, son here? So she's saying ciel, ciel. Yeah, it sounds the same. Interesting, right? We always have, not always, but we frequently have things that sound the same in French. We call those homophones, and they can be quite confusing, including for natives. So that's something to keep in mind. So who knows what's going on with the number 5, other than Tony, who's being a teacher's pet. But thank you. I appreciate your contributions. Absolutely not a criticism. So you know what's going on here? Like what impresses me with those is that they are the possessives, and because in English you have his and her, which depend not of the gender of the following noun, which typically in English it's not the gender does not have, like the noun does not have a gender, like this bottle is ungendered. But if it belongs to me, it's going to be his bottle because I go with male pronouns. But if it belongs to a woman, say my sister, it's going to be her bottle. That's English, but in French it does not work this way. Regardless if it's his bottle or her bottle, it's always going to be sa bouteille. It's always going to be sa because it's feminine. But the thing is, if the name for this object would start with a vowel, we would go with son, just like we did with son école. So his school or her school is always going to be son école. But if it was a beautiful school, it would be sa belle école. The reason is because école starts with a vowel. So we figure, oh yeah, that is true. It is actually feminine. Like, reality, like order of priority, right? Reality says the school has no gender. Grammar says the school's gender is feminine. Euphony says, yeah, okay, it's feminine, but sa école sounds bad, so we're going to say son école. So that's, order of priority in the French language for you. Cynthia is saying, ma ami would be difficult. Mon ami is easy and just a learn usage. Yep. Yeah, that's basically it. But it confuses the hell out of English speakers who are learning French because you strive so much to learn, or like I strive so much to teach that, yes, the bottle is always going to be sa bouteille regardless of who it belongs to, because the gender of the owner does not matter to the French language. And then next thing you know, yeah, the gender of the owner still doesn't matter, and in fact the gender of the thing also doesn't matter because it starts with a vowel. So we're just gonna throw everything we said before out of the window, which it's just a learned usage. You just have to learn it. But I think it's interesting. It's my favorite on this whole list. But still, let's move on to number 6. So j'achète du beurre et des cerises au marché, et j'achète des vêtements aux puces. So this is something that you probably have learned if you are an intermediate student or lower intermediate even, because we see those always. So it's about the du, des, au, and des and o here. So you know what this is about. If you don't know it yet, you will want to be writing it down here because that's super important. The so-called contractions are just really a big deal, also in French and also in English. I mean, the it's is also a contraction in English, but yeah. Tu vas cuire un gâteau avec le beurre et les cerises. Oui, probablement. Je peux effectivement cuire un gâteau ou faire un gâteau avec le beurre et les cerises. Ça va être un gâteau intéressant. But so, who knows what's going on here with the du, des, au thing? I think I have the list here. So I have it actually written down here. I hope you can read and it's not reversed. These are the contractions that we have in French. So if de and le meet, we never have de le. I do not have a rational reason why we do not have de le in French. It does not make any kind of sense, but for some reason, du just sounds better, and that's why we never say de le, we always say du. You have to contract it always, 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 always. You're saying du instead of de le and de instead of de le. Yes, exactly. It doesn't sound weird to you. So what doesn't sound weird, the de le or the sentences? Because I mean, if the sentences don't sound weird to you, it's normal because we always use those sentences. Like we use it all day, every day. Like I have no idea how many times a day I use that when I speak French. And I have no idea how many times you hear it in your daily French verb because it's extremely, extremely frequent. But so it won't sound weird to you. But maybe when you are speaking or writing, you actually forget that it's a thing because you might not have the gymnastic in your brain. You might not have it automatic. So that's something that if you can get it to the point where it's automatic and you never even think of writing de le, you directly write du, or de le, you directly write de, and then a le, you directly write o, and ale, you directly write o with an X. That will help so much. Masculine, feminine, singular de, and plural de. I'm not exactly sure what you mean with that, Cynthia, but yes, Tony's saying du pain, du vin, du boursin. That is a reference to a French commercial that existed when I was a kid. I don't know if they still run it. Maybe they do. But yes, it was a commercial for the cheese Boursin. Boursin is the name of a brand. And so, wine, bread, and cheese is traditional French culinary art. I guess we can say it this way. We would typically eat that at the end of any elaborate meal. Well, right before the dessert, right? So in between the main course and the dessert. And the brand Boursin thought it was a great idea to, push their cheese. It's a delicious cheese. Personally, I like it. It was one of my favorites as a kid. It was a good idea to push the product to go like, yeah, it goes with wine, bread, and Boursin. And then you had du pain, du vin, du Boursin. It sounded like, perfect trilogy. Oh, the commercial is shown over there too. Okay, right. So now that sounds like a really good motto for a commercial or commercial slogan. So these are the contractions. Please write them down if they are new to you. Make sure you remember them because it's really important and it is all the time. Doge says they actually have Boursin in the fridge. Lucky you, I wish I had some. I should find a place in Vienna where they sell it. There has to be some shops. Like there's a French shop somewhere. I need to go and check if they have some because it's not frequent here. All right, let's move on to the next one. Des hommes grands, de grands hommes. So now we are moving into the ones that are a bit rarer, that are more like for advanced students to notice. They're just a bit of like quirks. They won't actually really hinder your learning of French if you don't know them. So if you're still a beginner, it's okay to not learn these for now because it's a lot to remember at one time. But yeah, these are some infrequent euphony rules that are infrequent often because they are within a sentence that is rare. So let's see. Can't say butters usually. I'm not sure what you mean with that, Tony. So number 7 is des hommes grands, but if we put the adjectives before the noun, it becomes de grands hommes. I would ask you why that is the case, but actually I cannot tell you why. It's just a rule. If there is an adjective first, de becomes de. It's just how it is. I cannot explain it. It just somehow sounds better to the French mind. I don't know if you can see it here. So if you put the adjective before the noun, which you happen sometimes, then de becomes de. So it's de grands hommes, pas des grands hommes. And fun fact about grands hommes, actually, if you put grand after the sounds, after the noun, rather than before, it means something different. It's something that I've been teaching in the French Fluency Accelerator in the adjective workshops. So if you're in the program or if you decide to join at a later date and you watch that workshop, you can learn all the quirks that there are about French adjectives. And one is that some of the adjectives actually have a different meaning depending on whether they're placed before the noun or after the noun. It's actually rather infrequent to have an adjective that would mean the exact same and that could be placed both before and after the noun and would mean the exact same. Most of the time, most adjectives go after the noun. About 20 to 25 adjectives go before the noun, and some can do both. And if they can do both, they will mean something different. So des hommes grands means tall men. Des hommes grands, that means they're tall. Mais des grands hommes, that means great men. Now, not mutually exclusive. I like to think always of Charles de Gaulle and Barack Obama, who are both very tall and could arguably be said to be great men. But be careful what you say in French, because un homme grand and un grand homme, it's actually fundamentally different. You could consider that Napoleon was un grand homme, even though he was naturally notoriously small. And you could also consider that he was not un grand homme. Like, I'm not taking position in this debate. I am not particularly interested in it. But yeah, some people would say Napoleon was un grand homme, despite the fact that he was small, because it has nothing to do with the size. If the adjective is placed before the noun, then that has to do with the greatness. So just saying like ancien. Yep, ancien is one of those as well. So if it is after the noun, if it is une montre ancienne, this watch is actually pretty new, but if you have an old watch, you can say une montre ancienne, and that means it's like 200 years old, or like it's old, like genuinely old. But if you say une ancienne montre, it means that's the watch that you used to wear before, which you no longer wear. But it might not be genuinely old. So that is the case for ancien. Yep. We have at least 10 of those, and they're all in the adjective workshops in the French Fluency Accelerator. Okay, let's move on. So number 8, we have a-t-il and aura-t-il. So that's one of the favorite pet peeve that the internet has taken lately. There is a TikTok by Loic Somerville, if you follow him, with this very feature, the a-t-il, because he thinks it's crazy. I agree, it's crazy. But yeah, can you say what's going on here? Doge is asking, can you also say une ancienne montre ancienne? Nothing is stopping you from saying it. It sounds a bit weird. I think we would strive to avoid repeating the adjective if we could, because it's just not pretty to have so many repetition in the language. But technically, yes, you can say that. And it would mean that the watch is both old and you used to wear it before. Nancy is suggesting a-tu-il. So no, actually, it has nothing to do with tu. That has absolutely nothing to do with tu. So il here is a subject. It is a third person thing. It has nothing to do with tu. Linda is saying, this is my favorite one. It means nothing, and it totally is there for prettiness. Yep, you got it. So the T has no meaning whatsoever. It is what we call an expletive letter. I can write expletive. So expletive this is how you spell it in French. Expletive would be the equivalent in English. Tony is saying 2 vowels sounds again. Yes. So if it was a, il, then that would be 2 vowels. And rather than turning the sentences differently, we figured we could add the T in the middle. And same thing for aura, il. So it might not be just a, il. It can be in other sentences. Now, the funniest part of that is that it is that would be in a question, right? So a-t-il, that would be has he. It looks exactly like the pattern that you use in English, but actually this pattern is rather rare in French, and it now would pass as literary. We don't use so much the so-called inversion du sujet, in which we ask a question by just putting the verb first and the subject afterwards. We just don't really do that anymore, except if we're really, really trying to sound fancy. So you will see this rather rarely. It's not frequent. You won't see it often. But if you see it, you'll be like, oh yeah, it's really just here to be pretty. And not silent, but pretty and sounded. So a-t-il, aura-t-il, the T is here for no reason other than, yes, it sounds better. And what about the 9? Lorsque l'on. Have you ever seen that? Lorsque l'on. Please tell me if you've seen it. Like, just say yes if you have seen it and no if you haven't seen it. I'm curious how many people will have seen it. Those are saying, oh, in books, you'll see it all the time. Yes, so in writing, you will actually see it, and especially in books. So in text messages or emails, not so frequently, but in books, yes, you will see it. In speech, you will not hear it very often. And George is saying yes, and I got really confused. Nancy is saying yes. Okay, so lorsque l'on. The thing is, again here, the L is here for total prettiness. You will only see it in writing. You'll only see it in books. People would genuinely, like in speech, say lorsqu'on. And it does not sound that bad even. Like lorsqu'on, that I say it. I'm fine with it. It does not, and no one corrects me when I say it. Even if I speak to French people who are really good at the French language, they will not correct me for saying lorsqu'on. In writing, if I'm trying to sound fancy or like to look fancy in writing, I will write lorsque l'on. But the L is just here to sound good. No other reason. And then perhaps the absolute worst part of this exercise. Number 10, vas-y. So like, if you can find this one, honestly, you're really a boss at the French language. Tony is saying lorsque ou quand. No, I would just let me write that down. Lorsqu'on. I would just say it this way. So I would remove the e from lorsque and say lorsqu'on. And people say that in writing, but in speech, no, people say that in speech, but in writing, it might still be considered not very correct or not very good. So for number 10, if you have your Becherel at end, it could be useful. Just saying. They're just saying vas-y. So some French people will say vas-y. It's almost slang, which that means come on, like, well, vas-y là, come on, like, you know, just go ahead and or like, yeah. So Tony's saying 2 vowel sounds. So va-y would be 2 vowels. So yes, that's the origin of that. But vas-y, is everything normal with the spelling? Does someone know even what that is? Like what kind of verb conjugation that is? Nancy's saying she bought it. Yeah. Honestly, like if you're serious about learning French, and particularly if you're serious about learning conjugation, you need one of those. Like every single French person who's serious about their language has one. So the verb is aller. Yes, that is correct. So do you know which tense and which mood that is? And I'm actually will seek to open the Becherel at this page because it's going to be useful. So Tony is saying I'm imperative with the pronoun e. Yes. And Nancy is saying present. So you're both correct. It's imperative present. So Nancy, if you meant it as indicative present, that would not be correct. But indicative present, imperative present is correct. Doge is saying tu dois y aller. So you have to go, and that would mean vas-y, go there. Yes, that is correct. That is what it means. And Tony is saying it's a tu form. Yes, but so Tony, since you're right on track, like if you were to remove the pronoun e, how would you spell va in the tu form? If you just mean to say go, how do you spell it? Cynthia is saying the tu form with the y tacked on rather than aller. So aller would be the vous form. So yep. Right. So Tony is saying va with no s, as in va à la guerre. So go to war. Yep. So you can see that in your Becherel if you're able to open it faster than me. I don't know why, for some reason, they have put aller really late in this one. I'm just not finding it. So I'm going to use the index at the end. Allez, 32. Wow, I was not going to find it by just looking at the beginning. Right. So here you have the imperative, right? And you can see here, I hope you can actually see it, that Tony is correct. It's va and there's no s. Now it's tricky because in the present, which was Nancy's guess, that would be va with vas. So technically, if you see that with the s, you'll be like, yeah, of course it's the indicative present because it is the same spelling. But the truth is, it is this one, and we have added an extra s for prettiness. And it's kind of insane when you think about it. But yeah, the s is just here for being pretty. So first, we remove the s. Like, you know, the imperative is the tu without the s, which is already a weird rule because why not just take the same form as the indicative présent, perhaps just because we want to make French complicated. But anyway, in the imperative, Tony is right. It would be just va with no s. But if it's vas-y, va-y would sound too horrible to our beautiful French ears. And therefore, it's vas-y with an s. So yeah, kudos on finding this one. It's a really, really big deal. And then we have the 11th, the last one, je crains qu'il ne vienne. Now, this one is one of my pet peeves because technically you don't even really know what it means as a French person. There is a fundamental difference between je crains qu'il ne vienne et je crains qu'il ne vienne pas. So if we were to add the pas at the end, it would mean the complete opposite. And then the meaning of the ne would be different. So does any of you know what's going on here? If you don't, I can honestly not blame you. This is infrequent. This is very, very rare. This is for advanced students. But still, I want to give you like 1 minute to take your best guesses as to what's up with this sentence? Like which part is here just to look good or sound good? I'm just gonna wait a little bit. And since we are towards the end of this, you can think of what other question you want to ask about French, because it's going to be your cue soon. So let's see. No one? Oh, so we have a question about the vas-y. What about don, moison, and they? So I'm not really sure where you're going with that, Doge, but you have a point that this S thing does happen sometimes with en as well. I did do some research to put that together and to make sure I wasn't forgetting some. I decided to omit the fact that it also happens with zon, with en, because it's so rare that I have almost never seen it myself. So I don't think you're likely to see it. But in essence, you're correct in the fact that it can work with en. So Nancy, I knew you removed your message, but I think it was correct. It means I fear that he will come, or I think that he comes. So Tony is saying expletive ne, and yes, this is correct. So this is what we call the ne expletif, le ne expletif. It is only here for prettiness. There is no meaning to this ne, and what makes it horrible for everybody, not just non-natives, is that ne is also part of the negation. So je crains qu'il ne vienne. That means I'm afraid that he come. I'm afraid that he will come. But je crains qu'il ne vienne pas. Then you have ne pas, which is the negation. It's a completely different meaning of ne. In fact, this ne has no meaning. The other one does. And then je crains qu'il ne vienne pas. That would mean I fear that he will not come. So this sentence would basically mean the opposite of itself, depending on whether you understand that ne is expletive or not, which is insane. It is completely insane. Cynthia is saying it's quite a formal way of speaking. Yes, so je crains qu'il ne vienne, that's extremely formal. I don't think I would use this kind of phrasing in speech unless I'm talking to an ambassador or something like that, which does not happen very often. If I am talking to someone very fancy, maybe, or maybe someone very old, but honestly, I haven't used that kind of speech in a very long time. If I speak to a regular person, like, someone like myself, I will not use that kind of manner of speech. So congratulations, we have found all of the answers together. You have done an amazing job with finding all of the answers. I'm so proud of you for just finding them all together. This was amazing. And we do have some 13 minutes or so left for any question that you have. So either about this, like if something wasn't clear for one of you, just go ahead and ask a question. Or if you have seen something this week that you have found weird in French, in your daily French bath, or you've just been wondering about something or just want to ask me something for any reason, just go ahead and ask me. Nancy is saying, what subject next week? I know that, except I forgot, but I'm going to look it up. Subject next week. I don't know where it's. No. Oh, I found the link. So the subject I have listed for next week is false friends and real friends. That's going to be a fun one. I might actually make that into a game again, because false friends is just, it's funny when you have a false friend in there and you think it means the same thing that it would mean in English, but it doesn't. And of course, it's funny as long as you're in a safe space and you're just being playful with it. It's not funny when you're in a situation where you have some kind of stake going on, something that you are trying to either achieve or avoid, and you make a false friend mistake in the middle. That could lead to issues. But I think I'm just going to make one of those. And what's funny with false friends is that, well, funny, I don't know if it's funny, but often you sometimes stumble upon a situation where they give a sexual undertone to the situation. So it's the kind of false friend you want to know, and so it's just so you don't make the mistake. So yep, I'm going to make some sort of game about that. All right, so Nancy is saying these sessions are very helpful. I'm really happy that it helps. It's always my pleasure to come here every Sunday and to help every one of you together, rather than just working one-on-one. Although if you would like to work with me one-on-one, like I said, you have the link in the description below. I do have 2 or 3 spots, depending on if that would be 1 session per week or 2 sessions per week. So yep, that's technically possible to do that. But I also very much enjoy to come here and just speak about this kind of French that honestly is not really taught in schools, or if it is, it's not taught in a very straightforward way. So I really like teaching like that. So Dora was just saying about the they, I came across it in a Stromae music video. That's why I asked, but it seems like whoever was typing the subtitles made a spelling mistake. That is possible. If you would find the exact lyrics that you found, that would be easier for me to discuss it. And by the way, like, as long as we are here with not too many people on the call and I can address every single question, feel free to also bring like a chunk of context if you have a question about one word, because it will be a lot easier for me to explain a word in context than just the word on its own. Because it's possible, like, honestly, with people typing subtitles, they often make a lot of mistakes, and it just isn't, especially on YouTube, it's not a reliable way to learn French, unfortunately. It's not systematic. Like, some videos do have good subtitles made, but sometimes it's just typed by the YouTube system on its own, and it's just not up to speed with what we would need, the kind of quality we would need to actually learn French correctly. Cynthia is saying these lessons and explanations really bring the language to life rather than just do it because it's the rule. I'm so happy. Like, this is 100% my goal. This is also the goal that I have in the French Accelerator. Every single workshop is built with the idea of, and in fact, the workshops are built much more elaborately and much more in order than these lessons. Like, every week I come here and we have just 1 page of notes, but in the French Accelerator for each workshop, you have about 20 pages in the handouts, because I like to give the class as a video and also as an audio and also as a PDF. And I really, really make efforts to just break it down so that no matter how complex it is, we first start with like the simplest building block and then we build it from there. So yep, I love doing that. I don't know why, it's just kind of, it's my jam. Linda is saying it's false friends. So that was which one we have for next week. Thank you. Vous avez de la chance qu'on vous aime, dis-moi merci. Oh, I remembered. Oh, okay, no. You are correct, and I don't think it's a typo. I think the thing is that Stromae is speaking fast and a bit in a slangy manner, and what he means is vous avez. And you are correct in assuming that this is a case of euphony, because vous avez, there will be a liaison here. So that is the first case here, right? And the reason why it's the first is because it's also the most frequent. So this is true. The Z that is in Stromae, it's not expletive in and of itself. It's from vous, right? Vous avez. But because he's speaking so fast, it's just eating the vous, and then that would be zave. So yes, I hope that makes sense to you. If it doesn't, please let me know while I try to re-explain it. Where do we get the worksheets before these sessions? So either you receive my emails, which are, if you sign up for the French Fluency Starter Kit, which is free, by the way, you have the link in the description. When you sign up, if you click that you agree to receive the emails, you get an email every week with the worksheet, or, and that would be beforehand, it will be sent to you on Friday. Or you can get the worksheets always after the fact on my Telegram channel, or like after or before. So the link is in the description below. If you've never heard of Telegram, I also have a tutorial on this channel, which is how to use Telegram to learn French. And yeah, and all the worksheets will be found in the Telegram channel. I'll see if I can show you my channel from here. So the channel looks like this. It says Angèle Préto at the top, and you always have, I send the link every time and the worksheet before the class. That was actually an old one, but the one from this week looks like that. You have just, this work class. And if you want to find it later, you can click on my face on the top, and then you scroll, and then you have like these files. It's very well organized. I love that Telegram is doing it so efficiently, because it's convenient. You don't want to go to media because those are the pictures. You want to go to files. And under files, you will have all the worksheets for every single one of those videos ever since the worksheets exist. So I created them maybe like 2 months ago or so. It did not always have a worksheet. At first, I just came and talked, and I had just had my notes. But I figured it would be actually more helpful to you to have a worksheet, so I started adding a worksheet. So I hope this helps. You can always find the link in the description of the video, or you can go directly to the Telegram app and look for Angèle Préto or French Fluency, and then you find the channel. So welcome to the Telegram channel. I often share things for like daily French bath, the kind of things that I like to watch and that I like to read in French as well. So yep, it's a good place to be. I strongly recommend joining the channel. Wasn't even they, the instead of say. I don't think that's the thing, but like I said, I explained the ave, so we have more comments from you. Wait, if you get on the mailing list, it sends you the link before the language. Yes, this is true. Right, that's so interesting. Okay, I guess so. That means that it made sense to you. Great, I'm happy I could answer this question. Tony is asking, are SVP and STP only spoken by service people? So SVP and STP are s'il vous plaît and s'il te plaît. So they're short for s'il vous plaît and s'il te plaît. So I guess you were just like, do you mean spoken as SVP or STP, or do you mean spoken as s'il vous plaît and s'il te plaît? Because it's some people would say SVP sometimes in speech, but it's not so frequent. It will, however, be written often just because it's easier to type. It's faster. But normally, no, these are not words that are only used by service people. Like I say s'il vous plaît and s'il te plaît all the time in French when I speak to French people or French speakers. So that's the answer to that is no, I don't think so. Unless I didn't get the question somehow. Kiran is saying, thank you very much for the session. Merci beaucoup. Thank you for being here, Kiran. I really appreciate you joining, as well as everybody joining these sessions. Let's see if we have any other couple questions. We have like 3 minutes left. So if you have a question, now is the time. Otherwise, you have to wait until next Sunday, or you'll have to get on a one-on-one session with me, which is technically possible as well, or ask it in the French Accelerator Facebook group. If you're in the French Accelerator, you can do that. But if you're not in any of those things, then you'll have to wait until next Sunday. So Cynthia is saying it's very easy to find the study sheet and print from Telegram. Great, I'm happy it works. That's amazing. It's honestly my favorite way of doing it. I don't think there would be any other such an easy way to transmit, documents and to speak to you even in voice files. That's the reason why I love Telegram, because it's just so simple and it's not full of distractions like all the other social media. In fact, Telegram isn't really a social media; it's an instant messaging app. So it's instant message from me to you. No, you can't actually reply to that because it's made to be kept clear. So that's why it's a one-way channel. But of course, you can come here and speak to me in the live chat as you are doing right now. And if you have been watching the replay, well, congratulations on watching it on until this point. I think I was completely swallowed in the fact that there was so many people on the chat at the beginning that I didn't even remember to greet the people who have been watching the replay. But if you have been watching the replay until this point, thank you so much. Please leave a comment to say that you came here. And yeah, let's see if there's any question. Spoken and answered French. Okay, great. Nancy's saying thank you. Okay, well, thank you everyone for being here. There doesn't seem to be any other question here, and it's almost 8 p.m. for me. So I wish you a great rest of your Sunday, if you still have some Sunday left, because you're in the US, and for example, it's 2 p.m. right now in the US. Well, in the Eastern Coast, and it's got to be 11 a.m. On the West Coast. So thank you so much for being here and for spending a part of your Sunday with me. And I look forward to seeing you next Sunday. We will speak about false friends. It's going to be a blast. I so look forward to doing that. So thank you everyone for being here, and I'll see you next Sunday. Okay, bye.